Alright, in this video we're going to take some PNG images that are letters and numbers and common punctuations in sentences, quotation marks, apostrophes, etc. I've created these in Affinity Designer. You can also create these same images using a multitude of apps from the Play Store. One example is Infinite Painter. I created a few more images using Infinite Painter, and I have those imported into KLWP as well. But these images, again, are PNG images. Each one is imported into KLWP as a bitmap global. And before we dive much deeper into this tutorial, make sure you watch my most recent video, The Power of SI Module Index. And this tutorial here that you need to watch first explains how some of this stuff is going to work and allow us to copy and paste overlap groups which contain images, and it's going to automatically list the new letter in that overlap group. Now you can get the letters that I created, you can get the Affinity Designer template, you can get all the letters in PNG format from my KLWP free stuff folder, and it's called PNG letters. As a matter of fact, you can get the entire component for free, bitmap characters. That will be in my free components folder that you see right there. Look for bitmap characters. I know it's not there right now, but I'm going to be adding it soon. So let's look at the globals that we have. We have the text. This is the text that we want to show. We have the size. That can adjust the size of the letters, or these are actually images now. The spacing is where we can adjust the spacing between the letters. You can actually incorporate some negative numbers here as well, and it'll actually squeeze the letters together. These three text globals, I will explain these as we get to them, but notice it does include the SI module index function in order for us to copy and paste and quickly show these letters, and I'm going to show that to you right here in a second. And then every other image that we have up here, each image is named based on the character it will show. This global image A is the letter A. Scrolling down to the bottom, some of the other ones that I made using Infinite Painter, the dollar symbol, the and symbol, but you can use whatever app you want as long as you can export that image as a PNG image. My image size is going to be 200 by 200. You could go bigger or smaller. Just bear in mind, if you start scaling this thing bigger than what the size of your image is, it's probably going to become blurred or pixelated. Now, back inside of that component, the stack group, let's look at the first overlap group that we have here. This is the letter A. I have several overlap groups. Each one contains an individual letter. But let's talk about this stack group first. I'm going to go to Layer. For this stack group, horizontally centered, the margin is the spacing. That's what's going to allow us to adjust the spacing in between each letter. And the size, the GV size, is linked to the scale. That's what's going to allow us to make this bigger or smaller. Now, all of these items inside of this stack group, I'm going to select all of them with the exception of one, and I'm going to show you the power of SIM index again. So I've deleted all of those overlap groups with the exception of just one. So let's go into this overlap group. Now, before we look at the image, let's go to Layer. And this is where I can choose to either display this overlap group, which has the image in it, or remove it. And by removing it, notice this image is still centered in the screen. So for that code, I'm using GV remove. Now what GV remove is doing is it's going to look at the length of whatever text you want to show. It's going to determine whether that's less than the index of the module that it's in, and it's going to add 1 to it. For example, the length of our text right now is the music artist name. So however long that music artist name is, if it's less than the index in which this overlap group is in this case, the index of this overlap group is 0 because it's the first overlap group, its index is 0, plus 1. If the length of our text is less than 1, it will remove it. Otherwise, it will always show it. And in this case, the music artist name is definitely longer than 1, so it's going to show it. All right, so going back to the items, we have this image inside of this overlap group. Looking at the image, let's look at the code. We're looking at GV character, or char, whatever you want to call it, char, I don't know what some people call it, but anyway, GV char. That is going to look at the text, whatever text we want to display. It's going to cut a certain number of characters from it, but it's based off of the module index of the parent's parent. Now the reason why we have to do this is because the image has an index of 0. That's never going to change inside of the overlap group. However, that overlap group is going to change. Its index is going to change in this stack group as we start copying and pasting. Right now, the index of our first overlap group that this picture is sitting inside of, its index is 0. So it's looking at the first 0 characters, which is no characters. It's going to remove them, and then it's going to show 1. Now, all it's going to do there is show the first character. This is always going to work when we copy and paste. This is the power of the module index. Now, once it gets that character from gvchar, we want to use that character and apply the global variable, whatever character it may be. If it's an A, this will be gva. If it's a dollar symbol, it'll be gv dollar symbol. Dollar symbols can be a little bit funny because, dollar symbols are used as functions. But when I've looked at song titles that had dollar symbols in it, they're few and far between anyway, but ones with spaces, ones with commas, it's going to do GV comma, GV exclamation point, GV quotations, whatever character we have, that's going to be that bitmap. Each image is named based on the character it will show. Now, once you have all of that done, applying those codes in those spots, let's take this overlap group that sits inside of this horizontally centered stack group. Let's copy and let's paste. The next letter in our music artist is a W. Notice I'm just copying and pasting. Now check out what I can do. Boom, boom, boom. I'm just pasting. Now, I just copied enough overlap groups to show the length of this particular artist's name. And notice we're getting images. If I paste again, watch what happens. You may say nothing happened. Well, the reason why, this overlap group is going to get removed. Let me show you that. If I go to this last overlap group that we don't even see, if I go to layer, notice it's set to remove, because now this code GV remove, the length of our text is now less than the index of that particular overlap group with one added on to it. So it's getting removed. So we're not going to see it. Now, I would not recommend using these images to display entire paragraphs because it can be hard to read. And number two, you're going to be using a lot of characters, but this would be nice for song titles, music artist names, or just some short greeting or something like that. But notice it is getting removed. So I could come in here and paste even more overlap groups, but all of these ones that I'm going to be pasting now, they're going to all be removed. So I'm just pasting a whole bunch of overlap groups, and notice all of these have zeros because it's not really displaying an image either, because there is no image because there's no character. The length of that stuff, we don't even have a character in that particular index's position. But we don't have to worry about that because this overlap group is being removed. This is what keeps everything centered. I hope that makes sense. And if you have all that set up correctly, if I go over to globals and I scroll back up here to text, and I'm going to type in some custom text here. So KLWP is awesome. We're going to have some spaces and we're going to see an exclamation point. All of our images are all caps. So regardless of what we have here, it's going to display all caps, by the way. Now you may notice here that some things look a little bit weird. Well, I'll tell you what, let's save this. Let's go back to the home screen. So you may notice here that the K is getting cut off, and then the part of the awesome, the ME and the exclamation point, that's because our size is too big. So hop back into our globals. Let's bump the size down a little bit. And now we see KLWP, we got a space, is, space, and we're not seeing all of our awesome. That's because I don't have enough of those overlap groups copied and pasted in that horizontally centered stack group. Well, I'm going to go back to that horizontally centered stack group. I'm just going to paste a few more of those overlap groups and check out what it's doing. It just popped the E and the exclamation point up there. And now you see KLWP is awesome. And as you can see there, it's showing up nicely. Again, don't go showing entire paragraphs with this. That can be a little bit trickier to get new lines and whatnot, but showing song titles, artist name, short sentences and greetings, I think this works perfect for that. And pick this stuff up, mess around with it, add your own images. What you can do there, just come to the globals and you can come to these characters here and pick a new image, whatever you made, whether you use some graphic design app, some app off the Play Store, import those images for those letters, and feel free to add new characters as well. I have quite a few up here, but I'm missing a few here and there. But yeah, hopefully this will get the ball rolling for you and you can find some use to add PNG images as characters on your custom app. And that's it for this video. I hope it helped.